Into this explainer and unpack what is honestly one of the most astonishing financial milestones in human history. We're looking at a moment that literally rewrites the rulebook on personal wealth, driven by this crazy convergence of tech innovation and a hyper-concentrated financial market. And this actually affects all of our financial futures.
As of June 2026, Elon Musk has officially hit a 13-digit net worth. Yeah, you heard that right. 13 digits, making him the very first recorded trillionaire on Earth. It's one of those numbers so massive it kind of defies human comprehension. To really get how we arrived here, we can't just look at one guy, right? We have to look at the entire economic engine running beneath him.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll cover the first trillionaire, look at wealth throughout history, examine the AI and VC engine behind it all, dig into the cost of extreme wealth, and finally, weigh innovation versus inequality. Let's get into it. Moving on to Section 1, the first trillionaire, a record-breaking IPO.
So the really crucial piece of the puzzle here is how that $1 trillion threshold was actually crossed. Because it wasn't some slow, gradual trickle. On June 11, 2026, SpaceX priced the largest initial public offering in world history. They raised $75 billion at $135 a share. This single massive offering valued the company at a staggering $1.77 trillion. Now, Musk holds roughly a 43% stake in SpaceX. When you combine that $761 billion stake with his estimated $260 billion in Tesla and his other assets, it instantly catapulted him past that $1 trillion mark, landing his net worth right around $1.02 trillion.
To really wrap our heads around the scale of this, because $1 trillion is incredibly abstract, let's put it into perspective. Musk's personal net worth is now literally greater than the entire economic output, the GDP, of Switzerland. That is a notoriously wealthy country, sitting at $936 billion. Plus, if he wanted to, he could pay off the total public debt of 31 of the world's poorest nations, which is about $205 billion. And get this, he'd still walk away keeping more than 3/4 of his fortune.
All right, Section 2, wealth throughout history, a matter of scale.
Has anyone ever actually been this rich before? Well, historically, immense wealth was tied directly to physical resources, or, vast empires. Back in the 14th century, Mansa Musa built legendary wealth by controlling half the world's supply of salt and gold. In the 16th century, Jakob Fugger essentially monopolized copper and silver mining. Fast forward to the 20th century, and John D. Rockefeller controlled roughly 90% of U.S. oil production. But today, the ultimate wealth generator has completely shifted. It's fundamentally driven by technology, digital infrastructure, and market equity.
As you can see, even when we adjust for inflation, Musk's modern fortune just totally eclipses the legendary wealth of the past. Look at this. Rockefeller sits at an estimated $630 billion in today's money. Andrew Carnegie's at $459 billion. Mansa Musa at roughly $400 billion. Elon Musk has bypassed the old titans of oil, steel, and gold by an absolute mile, and he did it purely through the vehicle of modern tech valuations. That brings us to Section 3, the AI and VC engine, how the market concentrates.
So, how exactly does our modern financial ecosystem mint a trillionaire? What are the actual mechanics allowing for these astronomical valuations? Well, the answer lies in today's hyper-concentrated venture capital market. We aren't just seeing wealth expand, we are seeing it rapidly consolidate. A massive historic influx of capital is aggressively being funneled into a very, very small number of AI and tech mega deals. It's a market defined by extreme concentration right at the very top. Let's look at the numbers from the PitchBook NVCA Venture Monitor. In the first quarter of 2026, a staggering 73.1% of all venture capital raised went to just 5 venture capital firms. Just really think about that for a second. Almost 3/4 of the available capital in the entire ecosystem was consolidated into the hands of just 5 investment vehicles. That leaves the entire rest of the market scrambling to fight over the remaining 26.9%.
And where are those top firms actually putting their money? Into an equally tiny number of companies. Looking at the $267.2 billion in quarterly deal value, an incredible 73.2% of it was captured by just 5 deals. This includes massive market-moving events like a $122 billion financing round just for OpenAI. The market is basically pouring unprecedented resources into a few chosen winners.
This intense concentration has caused median valuations to absolutely skyrocket. For instance, Series C median pre-money valuations have leaped to $579 million. Today's financial ecosystem places an immense premium on capital-agile tech companies, the ones that can move fast, leverage huge cash bases, and win the AI and space races. This specific environment acts as a perfect incubator for a trillion-dollar net worth, and it's fundamentally changing how the broader market values early-stage tech.
Okay, let's shift gears to Section 4, the cost of extreme wealth, analyzing the critiques.
While the market is obviously popping champagne over these financial milestones and massive IPOs, researchers offer a very different perspective on the mechanisms running behind the scenes. This brings us to a really crucial question, one highlighted in a recent Oxfam inequality report. What are the systemic costs associated with amassing $1 trillion? Oxfam's analysis takes a hard look at Tesla, which is obviously one of the primary engines of Musk's wealth, and argues that this kind of accumulation doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It has profound impacts on our broader society.
To put this critique into perspective, Oxfam analyzed Tesla's tax contributions. Over 3 recent years, Tesla reported over $10 billion in U.S. income, but they paid a U.S. federal effective tax rate of just 0.47%, less than 0.5%. The report notes that this is achieved by illegally utilizing various tax loopholes, regulatory credits, and haven strategies, meaning the company relies heavily on systems that essentially minimizes its financial contribution back to public infrastructure.
Now, Oxfam impartially outlines several distinct concerns regarding the corporate practices generating this wealth. They detail how the company utilizes extensive corporate tax loopholes. They also question the independence of the corporate board that ends up approving these massive CEO compensation packages. On top of that, they point to allegations of anti-union tactics deployed in places like Sweden, Germany, and the US to prevent collective bargaining. And finally, the report highlights the use of massive political campaign contributions, arguing that this wealth is essentially used to reduce regulatory oversight from government agencies.
Internally, this wealth translates to a pretty stark contrast. When comparing CEO to worker compensation, Tesla's use of massive stock option packages results in an average pay ratio of over 4,000 to 1 over a 5-year period. To give you some context on that, the S&P 500 average is 285 to 1. Researchers point to this as a primary mechanism of extreme wealth concentration, basically utilizing equity-based compensation that vastly outpaces typical everyday wage growth.
Let's wrap up with Section 5, Innovation versus Inequality, the broader implications.
Let's zoom out here and look at the big picture of what these divergent realities actually mean for our future as we navigate this whole new era. We are currently witnessing 2 undeniable, yet highly conflicting trends running parallel to each other. They're shaping the modern global economy in ways we have quite literally never seen before, and they're pulling our society in 2 completely different directions.
We really do exist in a dual reality right now. On one side of the coin, we have an absolutely unprecedented engine of innovation. Companies like SpaceX and Tesla are quite literally pushing humanity to the stars, advancing artificial intelligence, and unlocking massive shareholder value along the way. But on the flip side, we have a financial and corporate structure that is consolidating wealth and power faster than at any other point in recorded history. And that is raising some serious concerns over labor rights, market monopolies, and tax fairness.
And that leaves us with a provocative thought to end on. As we officially enter the era of the trillionaire, we have to ask ourselves, are we witnessing the ultimate success of capitalism's innovation engine, rightfully rewarding those who build the future? Or are we looking at a profound failure of economic equality, where the system is built to benefit only a tiny fraction of people at the very top? It's a hugely complex question, and the answer is probably going to define the next century of human progress. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helped clear up the mechanics behind this historic milestone.